I will be surprised if Jeremy Clarkson faces any meaningful censure for what he did in the Sun newspaper on Saturday. I will be deeply surprised for a number of reasons, and I'm not negligible knowledge of how this industry works maybe have helped to people on the outside. The main reason why I don't think he'll face censure is because it would involve admitting a mistake, and managements hate nothing more than admitting a mistake. If you drop an enormous clanger, they're much happier to see your contract roll to an undignified end, possibly even suggest that you stop filing your column a couple of months before the contract ends. But the actual axe, the falling of the actual guillotine, is an admission of epic wrongdoing on the part of whoever it was that allowed that column to be printed, or whoever commissioned that column in the first place. When Katie Hopkins wrote her disgusting column about people trying to cross the English Channel, the editorial staff at The Sun were adamant that no one had actually seen it, that it had somehow managed to reach the light of day unchecked. For what it's worth, knowing some of the people involved and some of the processes concerned, I actually believe them. But it doesn't matter, does it? Because they still didn't get rid of her immediately after the column appeared. And Nigel Farage's disgusting comments about, well, it's so hard to remember what disgusting comments it was that temporarily halted his career in toxic attention seeking, which continues, I think, on an obscure television channel. Again, you know, the move is bold when a management actually says enough is enough. We don't want your witterings anymore. That involves some element, not a massive element, but some element of mea culpa. And of course, you saw the editor of The Sun, again, someone I used to know quite well. As you saw the editor of The Sun on BBC One yesterday morning, this is what I found most incredible, oddly, about the whole affair, is that Laura Kuenssberg, the former political editor of the entire BBC, which is the only public broadcaster we have in this country, everything else is owned. The BBC is yours and mine and all of ours. She had the opportunity to ask Rupert Murdoch's editor what the hell was going on when Rupert Murdoch's editor decided to print that column by Jeremy Clarkson, and she didn't mention it at all. I genuinely, out of all of this, and this is me, you'll have to indulge me for 10 seconds. This is me being a little bit in-house, if you like, being a little bit trade, a little bit job. I cannot believe that. I can't even sit here and speculate confidently on how the hell that happened. Whether or not there was a nod and a wink before the programme started, and Victoria said, oh, I won't, well, listen, if you're going to ask me about that, then I'd rather not do the programme. And instead of saying, all right, then, bye-bye, don't let the door hit you on the way out, they said, oh, that's fine, just come in and say, I mean, it's cosy keeping access to a political class that has been bought and sold 100 times over by people like Rupert Murdoch is, you know, probably necessary if you want to end up in a job like that on the BBC. But I, for as long as I live, will never be able to understand how anyone who dares to call themselves a journalist had the actual editor of a newspaper that has just plumbed a new depth. A new depth. How many times have I asked you lately, what do you call it once you've scraped away the bottom of the barrel? What's below that? Well, Jeremy Clarkson, frankly. And for the BBC, the Tribune of the People, the only broadcaster that is not owned by somebody like Rupert Murdoch, to duck that opportunity, to shirk that responsibility, to be derelict of that duty was disgusting. But nowhere near as bad, of course, in the first instance as allowing it to be published in the first place. So why? How? What? Okay.
James O'Brien's critique of Jeremy Clarkson's inflammatory column about Meghan Markle, aired on LBC on December 19, 2022, was a masterclass in dissecting the pervasive culture of misogyny and bigotry in media. O'Brien tackled not just Clarkson's shocking words but the systemic issues they represent, shedding light on how hate speech, disguised as opinion or humor, continues to harm public discourse. The controversy began when Clarkson, writing for The Sun, stated he hated Meghan Markle on a cellular level and fantasized about her being paraded naked while having excrement hurled at her, a reference to a humiliating scene from Game of Thrones. He further claimed that everyone my age thinks the same way. This statement alone sparked immediate backlash, with over 20,000 complaints filed with Ipso, making it one of the most complained about articles in UK history. The timing of Clarkson's article was notable, coinciding with the release of Prince Harry and Meghan's Netflix docuseries, Harry and Meghan. The series had already reignited debates about racism, media harassment, and institutional mistreatment, themes that Clarkson's column starkly exemplified. James O'Brien dismantled Clarkson's remarks with his trademark blend of wit, logic, and moral clarity. O'Brien began by addressing Clarkson's disturbing imagery, highlighting how it not only reflected personal malice but contributed to a broader culture of misogyny. He emphasized that such language perpetuates the dehumanization of women, especially women of color, and fosters an environment where abuse is normalized. O'Brien rejected Clarkson's assertion that everyone my age harbors similar sentiments, calling it a gross generalization designed to legitimize hate. Instead, O'Brien framed the article as a reflection of Clarkson's own deep-seated prejudices and insecurities. This, he argued, was emblematic of a media ecosystem that too often amplifies voices rooted in hate rather than reason. O'Brien's critique aligned with the overwhelming public backlash against Clarkson's column. Prominent figures like Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon called the remarks deeply misogynistic, while London Mayor Sadiq Khan described them as dangerous and inexcusable. Even Clarkson's daughter, Emily Clarkson, condemned the article, stating she stood against everything my dad wrote and advocating for better treatment of women by the media. The outrage extended beyond individuals to institutions. IPSO was inundated with complaints, forcing it to review its guidelines on hate speech. Activists and commentators pointed to the incident as proof of the urgent need for stronger media accountability. Clarkson himself issued a partial apology, calling his remarks clumsy and expressing regret for the hurt caused. However, many, including O'Brien, found this response insufficient and insincere, given the severity of the language used. O'Brien used the incident as a springboard to examine the toxic relationship between the British media and Meghan Markle. He noted how the Duchess of Sussex has been a consistent target of tabloid vitriol since her relationship with Prince Harry became public. O'Brien highlighted the racial undertones in much of the criticism, drawing parallels to the challenges faced by other women of color in the public eye. The media's role in amplifying harmful stereotypes was central to O'Brien's critique. He argued that outlets like The Sun have long profited from outrage and division, often at the expense of ethical journalism. By publishing Clarkson's column, the paper not only gave a platform to hate speech but legitimized it under the guise of free expression. O'Brien called on media consumers to demand better from their news sources, urging them to reject outlets that perpetuate harm. O'Brien also placed Clarkson's remarks within a broader cultural and historical framework. He drew attention to the enduring legacy of colonialism and patriarchy in shaping public perceptions of figures like Meghan Markle. As a biracial woman who challenged traditional notions of royalty, Meghan represented a threat to entrenched power structures, a fact O'Brien suggested was at the heart of much of the backlash against her. This perspective resonated with the themes explored in Harry and Meghan's Netflix documentary, which detailed the couple's struggles with racism, media harassment, and institutional neglect. By tying these issues to Clarkson's column, O'Brien underscored the systemic nature of the problem and the need for collective action to address it. One of the more controversial aspects of the story was Clarkson's attendance at a private Christmas party hosted by Queen Camilla just days before the article's publication. This connection raised questions about the complicity of the royal family in fostering or tolerating such behavior. Critics noted the hypocrisy of Clarkson attacking Meghan while enjoying close ties to the monarchy, further fueling debates about double standards within the royal institution. O'Brien concluded his analysis with a call to action. He urged listeners to challenge the normalization of hate speech, whether in media, politics, or everyday life. He emphasized the importance of holding public figures accountable for their words and actions, arguing that freedom of speech should not come at the expense of human dignity. The incident also sparked discussions about the role of press regulators like IPSO in preventing similar controversies in the future. Activists called for stricter penalties for outlets that publish hate speech, as well as better support systems for individuals targeted by media abuse. The Clarkson controversy and O'Brien's response marked a turning point in public discourse about media ethics and accountability. It highlighted the power of collective outrage in challenging harmful narratives and paved the way for broader conversations about systemic change. For Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the incident underscored the challenges they continue to face in advocating for a more inclusive and compassionate society. By breaking down the incident in such detail, James O'Brien demonstrated the critical role of media commentators in fostering accountability and challenging harmful norms. His critique of Clarkson's column remains a powerful reminder of the importance of using one's platform for good, and the dangers of remaining silent in the face of injustice. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you taking the time to tune in and be part of this conversation. If you enjoyed the video or found it insightful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any future updates or deep dives into the topics that matter most. Until next time, take care and stay curious.